Järgmine kõneleja on
Our next speaker is Mr. Kristian Vigenin, who is the chair of the Committee on European Affairs and Oversight of the European Funds in the National Assembly of Bulgaria. He has also been the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Bulgaria, MEP, and co-president of the Euronest Parliamentary Assembly. As a parliament member, he has also been an active member of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly.
Let me first congratulate Estonia, and especially the Estonian Parliament, for the active and constructive conduct of the parliamentary dimension of the presidency of the Council. I see that there are a lot of speakers already on the list, so I'll try to be as brief as possible. There is no doubt that today the European Union is at a historical turning point, facing dramatic challenges both from within and outside. Today, too many Europeans consider the Union as either too distant or too interfering in their day-to-day lives. They demand from the EU to deliver practical solutions to the many crises we face. They ask how the EU is improving their standard of living, their security, and they expect a clear answer. In times like these, the EU needs strength and determination to keep unity and to better respond to the expectations of the citizens in the areas of security, economy, social inclusion, and others. The responsibility and the contribution of every member state to the achievement of the common goals should be visible, respected, and adequately reflected in our decisions. National parliaments can contribute actively to the good functioning of the European Union. The effective involvement of national parliaments is fundamental to ensuring that there is accountability and legitimacy for the actions of the Union. More could be achieved within the existing treaty structure. Important improvements should be secured through the efficient and enhanced role of national parliaments and through actions collectively agreed between the national parliaments, the Commission, the Council and the European Parliament where relevant. We need to reconfirm the principles of community approach, clear distribution of competences and loyal cooperation. In that respect, the task force proposed by the European Commission on subsidiarity, proportionality and doing less more efficiently, I don't particularly like this title, is a good opportunity that we have to use. Effective scrutiny by national parliaments of the activities of their own governments on EU matters is essential. National scrutiny systems inevitably vary according to the national context. Whatever system suits the national context, it is vital that national parliaments carefully scrutinize the EU activities of their national governments and hold them to account. While each national parliament will determine for itself the best means of doing this, we can nonetheless learn from each other. COSAC could contribute to strengthening these processes. Also, national parliaments should have a greater role in considering EU policies at an early stage before hard and fast battle lines have been drawn. The Commission should do much more to show that it can be responsive to suggestions and concerns raised by the national parliaments, even if they are not directly related to the principles of subsidiarity and proportionality, but are in fact more policy related. Whether at this early stage of policy development or later on, if a yellow card is issued, the Commission should take seriously its duty of review and either withdraw or substantially amend the proposal in question. The role of national parliaments in EU matters has become an important subject in the debate over the democratic legitimacy of the European Union. Strengthening parliamentary scrutiny and participation rights is often seen as an effective measure to address the perceived democratic deficit of the EU by bringing Europe closer to the people. Yet the potential of national parliaments to contribute to the good functioning of the Union and thus to the democratic legitimacy of the EU depends not only on effective parliamentary scrutiny, but also on parliamentary communication of EU policies. Communication and transparency, vital in every political system that aspires to be democratic, are of particular relevance in the EU. Here, national parliaments are crucial as arenas for the communication of important EU issues and their national implications. This needs to include both policy communication, mainly through plenary debates, and the provision of accessible information, for example, through more integrated and effective national parliaments' websites and social media channels. In both cases, parliaments need to focus not only on the information needs of specialized audience, but also to those of general public. By communicating and debating European issues in public, parliaments can thus effectively contribute to making policy processes more transparent and offer citizens a remedy to the otherwise opaque procedures, the overwhelming complexity and the difficult attribution of political responsibility in decision-making beyond the nation state. Now, some few practical practices that we find good, since that is the topic of our discussion. First of all, in the national parliament, committee meetings are in general open to the public. NGOs and citizens are encouraged to participate and/or to provide their opinions in written beforehand. A few months ago, the Committee on European Affairs has set up a Facebook page and a Twitter account. The aim is to make the work of the EU Affairs Committee more transparent and accessible to the public. Citizens can also send messages directly to the committee via the social media, ask for advice or more information, and also they can ask questions to ministers when they come for hearings, which are transmitted through the chair of the committee during the meeting. The sittings of the committee are live streamed on the website of the National Assembly. The plenary sessions are web streamed as well. The minutes, including verbatim protocols of all committee meetings and the audio files, are also accessible on a dedicated part of the National Assembly's website. European Affairs Committee has also established a video archive. And in addition to that, we publish a brief information or news as a summary of the decisions taken and topics discussed following every committee meeting. Finally, engagement with the civil society. The Council, a public council, was founded with an aim to promote a steady dialogue with representatives of the civil society during the planning and implementation stage of the policy-making process and statements on legislature, especially on the European affairs issues. The Public Council consists of nearly 30 permanent members, among which are nationally represented employers' organizations, nationally represented trade unions, National Association of Municipalities in the Republic of Bulgaria, academic representatives, and representatives from a variety of non-government organizations, including students' organizations. The Public Council advises the Committee in relation to parliamentary monitoring and oversight of European affairs, and also when it comes to parliamentary scrutiny of the government's activities in respect to the programming, the management and the control of revenue from all programs co-financed by EU money and from the countries of the European Economic Area. The Council has regular meetings and provides its advice and opinion on law drafts and other relevant statements, papers and reports to the EU Affairs Committee. These are just few practical examples which prove to be quite successful in our work. Now I expect an interesting and inspiring discussions. As I mentioned, we can learn from each other and hopefully together we can bring the EU issues closer to the citizens and thus the European Union, the European project closer to them. Thank you.
Aitäh, härra Vigenin.
Thank you, Mr. Vigenin.
Thank you very much. Mr. Vigenin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just briefly on my side as well, in a telegraphic way. First of all, we should take into account that here in COSAC we have probably the most pro-European MPs in our parliaments. I suppose this is generally the case, and we should take this into account because this is influencing our discourse here as well. Secondly, on the red card, yes, I support the idea of having such a red card plus some additional possibilities of national parliaments to influence the European legislation. But we should also take into account that with greater power we have greater responsibilities. In that sense, we should not, basically we should not ask for more than we can actually handle. So there we should try to find the best balance in the future debates. I think that in the biennial report that was presented this morning, you can find some good examples of the way different parliaments deal with similar issues, and I think we should continue our discussion also in the next presidency, specifically on this topic, and try and exchange more information how we deal with it. I think that anti-EU propaganda is very efficient because people do not know enough. When you do not know something, it's much easier to be misled. So giving more information on the substance, I think it's very important in addition to everything else that we have discussed today. changes we propose must be aimed at improving, not at impeding the functioning of the EU. Because sometimes you can find very interesting proposals from parties or people that actually want to destroy the EU, not to make it work better. So we have to be also very careful how we use the tools that we get. I mentioned that already. And finally, I think that we should be careful and stick to the level we have: European Parliament, national parliaments, local and regional, respectively, parliaments and authorities. I think that the strongest tool we have to influence the European policy through the Council, it is to scrutinize our own ministers who participate in the Council meetings. So there is a big area which is still not used. And in this direction, I think we should continue to work, especially in my parliament. This is an issue that we'll try to bring up in the months to come. Thank you very much.